On first looking into Chapman's Homer, I explained in the introduction that one of the earliest poems that kids read was the translation of Homer's Iliad by Chapman, a great British writer at the time. What is very special about the reading of this translated version of the Iliad by Homer by Chapman? Keats expresses his intellectual and literary pleasures which he had developed in reading poems of the old. And the poem was inspired by Keats' reading of Chapman's translation of Homer's Iliad and Odyssey. His reading of these ballads and romances can be seen in the line, "Much have I traveled in the realms of gold." Old stories which he had read make him to travel in the realms of gold. He has read so many books of adventures and romantic stories, yet his romantic or extensive reading had never given him this different perspective. These stories have taken him to different countries in his mind, his imagination and fancy. In these journeys, he has derived undescribable pleasure, which can be compared to when someone finds gold. Keats has been to the world of the romances, true tales, and he has related them to people. Keats also makes references to the romantic poems focused on the airy and mystical lives of the islands of the Hebrides. He had known the taste of Homer's poems when he had read them at first. But through Chapman, the great Greek poet took a different dimension and gave him a different level of pleasure. He says, "Oft of one expanse I had been told that deep-browed Homer ruled as his domain, yet did I never breathe it pure serene." He never felt the beauty, even though he had been told how great Homer was. And it continued, "Till I heard Chapman speak out loud and bold," until I read the translation from Chapman. And there he could get the message loudly and boldly. Keats only realizes the quality of pure serenity of Homer's poetry only when he reads Chapman's translation of Homer's poem. He is full of praise to Chapman's unconventional and bold approach in handling Homer's poems. The reading of Chapman's Homer unveils new horizons of imagination and brings him in a world of fancy in Keats' mind. He experiences new sensation which he described. "Then I felt like some watcher of the skies. When a new planet swims into his skin, he felt happiness. He was elated." The reading of Chapman's translation has given him more pleasure than he has gotten from his previous readings of the other version. He compares the joy that he has derived from the reading of Chapman's version to an astronomer who is excited when he makes a new discovery of a new planet. His joy is boundless because he has seen a new star. The joy is also compared to that of discovering a new land by explorers in the Pacific. The poem is a celebration of the genius in George Chapman, who translated Homer's works in 1815. Keats had read the translation of Homer's poem for the first time with his friend Clark. The next morning, Keats had written a poem expressing his feeling on his first reading of Chapman's translation of Homer's poems. Keats expresses his feelings of a new sensation after the reading. The poem emphasizes the beauty and power of literature because it transports you to faraway lands. It builds imaginations and carries you to the world of fancy. In the octave of the sonnet, Keats intends to express the contrast between his reading of other poems or romances and his first reading of Chapman's translation of Homer's epic poems. Earlier on, he had had a cursory acquaintance with Homer, but after reading the translated version of Chapman, it has aroused his passion to full intensity. Keats knows of Homer's greatness and has tasted of his poems, but the sensation is now very different. He has had the opportunity to read poems from other poets, but he has not had the opportunity to visit Homer's kingdom. But the reading of Chapman's Homer translation version has indeed opened the realm of gold to him. This is an explanation of Keats' quest for poetic beauty. The pleasure that he derives is unimaginable and gets new inspiration for writing poetry after this reading. Keats describes his pleasure to that of an astronomer. He also compares it to an explorer discovering a new piece of land. The first part of the poem describes Keats' reading experience before reading Chapman's translation. The sestet contrasts Keats' experience of reading it and the previous experience of the other readings. The poem is about literary celebration, the power of arts, and the imagination. It also handles the genius of Homer's creativity and the ability that literature can navigate an individual through different cultures and civilization. This is a type of celebration that Keats sought for when he will die. The poem is about the relationship of the beauty of literature and creativity to transporting one to the world of imagination and fancy.